Olá, bom dia, tudo bem?
Bom dia. It's good. Boa noite in this side,
Of
as
course
it's
it is.
the
Yes,
middle of the night here. But that
yes.
was one of the most amusing intros that I've had so far. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to have been part of it. Right. And you've been in, I mean, there you are in Los Angeles. Presumably you've been to Muscle Beach and some of those excellent beach fronts that there are
Actually, for
in
the beachfront, I've
California.
only been to the Santa Clara yacht. I'll maybe explore some of
Really?
those on this weekend.
Oh, okay. And did you see anybody in knitted beachwear? Because I would expect that the cutting edge of fashion to be occurring there as well in California. Any knitted beachwear?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I didn't pay too much attention. But probably, I've been seeing it on social media though.
Right. Oh, have you? So
Yeah,
it is a thing.
it
Right.
is
Okay.
a thing.
Oh, okay. I've come into it quite intuitively. Honestly, there was no strategic planning. It just happened like that. So I feel like I'm a natural as well. But enough about me and my knitted swimwear. Good morning to a lovely array of gumpers this morning, 1 a.m. So thank you so much, Anna, for joining us at 1 o'clock in the morning, your time. And for the last time, for the time being, because you are headed home and we are reviewing how your time has been, right, in the United States. So how's it going?
It's been very interesting. The United States is indeed like one of the things that was told to me that I found interesting is like 300 years in Europe is not a lot, and 300 kilometers in the US is not a lot. It's pretty much that. So
A key takeaway from your time in the USA then. Well, I trust you. It's been useful, and I'm sure it's been very educational and eye-opening and illuminating, right? To go to that culture where many of your customers have come from.
Yes, it's been very interesting because the US is, well, it's been called a dominant culture because
Mm,
of how popular it is as pop culture and movies and all of that. And
yeah,
LA is very much the center of that side of things.
yeah.
But there's still so many unexpected things that you wouldn't think about
Oh, come on,
that
tell us about
actually
those. Tell us about.
are.
Say again.
I was saying that there's still so many things that are unexpected when you actually get here, and
Yeah.
that you still get a lot of culture clashes.
Oh, okay. And have you got a few examples for us?
Well, one of the things was like I actually really thought that the whole preaching in the street was just a movie, a drama thing. It's not.
Because you're never sure, are you? You and I both, I think, have grown up, and as many people do in Europe, with a certain view of America that, of course, has been informed by watching TV and films, right, and listening to music. And so we could be forgiven for thinking that's what life is like when you go to the United States. And the preaching bit in the streets is correct and true by the sound of
The preaching industry. I don't know if it's an industry, but it's definitely a thing.
Really? And have you been converted? Have you found a new career or a new
No,
path?
but I actually in the place I'm staying right now, I have view to the Church of Scientology from my window.
Right. Okay. And are you tempted to
Yeah.
okay, all right, simple answer. Right there. Okay. Anything else with the culture clash and your, I guess, increased understanding of your clients who are coming from the United States?
I also find it very interesting that it's completely different in the northern west coast versus the southern one.
Yeah.
I started in the southern one, so California and Arizona. And this past few weeks, I've been to the northern west coast. I've been to Portland and Seattle.
Oh,
And it's really quite different, not only in terms of landscape, but also in terms of cities. I don't know if you remember last time we were here, I was saying that I was quite culture shocked with the way that US cities were built and how everything was mostly one-story houses and very little high-story buildings.
mm,
There's a bit more, the cities look a bit more normal from my perspective on the northern side. At least Portland and Seattle has a very high-rise looking city. And it also has a lot more green spaces, which I really enjoy. So, but then again, in Portugal, I'm also a bigger fan of the north, so I'm not surprised at all. And I now understand why there is such a big community in the north from that area, as there is indeed some parallels.
Very interesting. Okay, so tell us a bit more about that then. So north is like is LA like Lisbon and San Francisco a bit more like Porto? Is that what you're saying, or do you have to go further?
No, when I was saying the north, I was not saying North California. I was saying Northwest Coast. So I was talking a lot about Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, which are like up here.
Yeah.
And I would say definitely that LA would be more similar to Lisbon in a way. But I don't think we really have any city in Portugal that is comparable to LA, because LA, like we were saying, it's like the center of the cultures and arts and movies and music, and there's always something happening. Lisbon would definitely be the closest comparison to that, but it won't be in the same level. So Lisbon is very, very small when you look at Lille.
It's so true, isn't it? It is. I mean, Fabrizio and Ian were saying that they live in Arroios in Lisbon, and we're talking about, you know, where that's located, but just how small really Lisbon is. And yeah, I guess you've got a great sense of that touring the United States. Tell us a bit about Seattle then, and Portland, or Portoland as we might call it now with that comparison.
I guess. Well, one of the things that I was very positively impressed was that the food on that side, I found that the ingredients were a lot higher quality and the prices were a lot more reasonable, which I really enjoyed.
Yes.
And but as you know, that's been a pain for me here in the last days, the whole food thing. So it definitely got some nice food in that area. And another thing that I really enjoyed is, you know, I'm really into more alternative and quirky things. And for example, Portland apparently has a motto that is "Stay Weird." So it has a bunch of alternative things going on, and I really, really enjoy it. So Portland apparently is the city of the studios that made Coraline and a bunch of famous quirky animations. And they were also having an event kind of going on, an art installation, I suppose, that was a cat trail of decorated cats made by the studio that was spread around the city. So, of course, I really found that super nice. And there was just a number of alternative places that it was this amazing midri with like fantasy medieval themes that I actually accidentally got Celtic Fair, which is another funny thing. It was a Celtic Fair, but do you call them Renaissance fairs here in the US? While in Portugal we have a bunch of medieval fairs, and the vibe is definitely completely different. But one thing I did enjoy is, while in the fairs in Portugal, you will see maybe like 20% of the public that dresses up. Here, like 70% of people did dress up. Sometimes completely out of theme. There would be like Renaissance people, medieval people, Celtic people, Vikings all around, but it was super fun.
Yeah, like anything historical, basically.
Yeah.
Anything more than a couple of 100 years old. Yeah, absolutely. Jackie's saying, is our very own Savvy Ana back from the US of A already? It's not been 6 months already. Wow, that has flown by. I hope she's had an amazing time. It's part one, isn't it? We should explain, because you are still there, but you're on the verge of returning.
I am returning on the 15th. I actually just got my US company open today. So
seriously, oh, congratulations! So we can celebrate with you. You have incorporated in the United States, and you've got an American company now. Wow, congratulations! I mean, you're an amazing entrepreneur in your own right here within Portugal. But to go and do that as well, I think is amazing. So congratulations on the launch, not only of a new website recently, but now a new company, a company structure over there on the other side of the Atlantic. Well done. That is significant. How's that process been? Because we sometimes moan about that here. You know, on one side of it, it's like
it was actually a lot slower than I was initially hoping. Exactly because of that. Like I know that people tend to be a lot more efficient here in the US.
Yes.
But it actually was a whole process, because first I actually had to find a stand-in CFO, because I don't want to be a tax citizen. And therefore, I had to find a standing CFO, which took a while. And then I was going to get some help from lawyers to get some custom incorporation articles. And I was in contact with this firm that was recommended to me and just asking them, okay, just send me a service contract so I know what's included so we can move forward. Instead of a service contract, they sent me an invoice. And I was like, this is not what I asked.
Right.
And I kind of didn't really trust them at that point because they weren't saying anything specific. And from the sounds of it, they would just do the most basic of work, which was not what I was looking for. And so I had to look for a new lawyer's firm.
Wow.
And in the end, I actually kind of ended up opening the person that was the stand-in CFO ended up being the one opening the company. And we are currently working on the legal details and eventually getting the custom incorporation articles incorporated. But I also will need to come back to Portugal because the Portuguese and American companies will be connected and I need to take care of things on Portugal's side. So I will I will also need to be changing the visa. Now that I have a company, I can change the visa. So that's why the phase one. And then once I change the visa, I can go back and start making my tour plan where I will be actually doing physical events in the different locations instead of webinars, which I'm still doing every month at a time. So I actually just had one today, a few hours before our session here. And the next one is scheduled for the second week of October, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's either the...
We can see that on the website, can't we? We can find that at savvycatrealty.com. If people want to find you that way. We are so proud of you. There's a brava from Laura in the Algarve. What a wonderful achievement. So that changes your visa game then, does it? But by being a company owner there, you have a different sort of right to it?
No, I don't. The thing is, the visas in the US work completely different than the visas in Portugal. And what I will be applying will be basically for a visa as a temporary worker. So my company will be inviting me to be in a management position for a temporary time to get things sorted, which is basically the goal here. Yes. And then I will get back to Portugal after it's sorted. And I am realizing that it may or may not take longer than I was initially hoping, but let's see. Because I will be doing those tours and seeing how it goes. And I did tell you that my overall goal was to get someone to do that job for me. But I will have to do it first to see if it works before actually hiring someone. So let's see how it goes.
It's been so brilliant to see this all develop in front of our very eyes. And thank you for updating us. On a more personal note, Pamela's asking, Olá, Ana, tenho saudades de Portugal. So are you missing home? Are you glad to be coming home quite soon?
Mostly the food and the healthcare. So that was an interesting experience. Like 2 weeks ago, I started getting UTI symptoms, and it was the whole panic because I will only get health insurance once I get the company open. So I didn't have US health insurance yet. And I wasn't very much willing to find out how much it would cost to go to get treatment in the US. I did, however, discover there is this like online prescription services here in the US. I imagine because this is a very common issue. And you know, since a UTI is a fairly easy to treat condition, I just basically had to fill out the form and they made me a bunch of questions. And then supposedly I got in touch on a live chat with the nurse and they got me the prescription. And then I went and picked up the prescription at the nearest pharmacy. So that was actually quite quite efficient. Yes. And it wouldn't be too bad to have something like that. If I don't think it would be legally possible to make something like that work in Portugal, but it would be quite nice to solve the waiting times for non-complicated conditions in the ER, though. So I actually found it really interesting.
Isn't that wonderful to have the comparison and you're understanding things much better, I'm sure, for the people who are coming from the United
Yes,
States. Well.
I definitely understand how stressful it was. So stressful just
Right.
being in the hotel and figuring out how do I solve this instead of just walking into an ER, either private or public, like I
Yeah.
do in Portugal.
Yep. And you've grown up with that and you take it for granted, and there you are in
Yes.
a completely unfamiliar place. So that's the health side. Back to the saudade and the food that you mentioned. Would it be really unkind of me to show you a picture of francesinha in that case?
No, I actually don't like francesinha that much, so it don't
What?
affect me that much.
Oh, Anna, that is our treat of the week this week. This one is from Caldas de Renha, which is it's a slightly it's a variant on the francesinha theme, because it's actually a burger in that one rather than a piece of steak, which I think is the more traditional version. That's Caldas. Maratona did that beautifully. So you don't like this dish particularly?
It's not that I don't like it, but it's a very heavy dish, so I very rarely eat it because it's so
It is huge.
strong.
Yeah,
And and I also have to be very careful because I'm allergic to peppers and chili and anything pepper. So peppers, jalapenos, chili, which is
okay.
very common in the sauce. So I overall avoid it.
Oh, there's about 3,000 ingredients in a francesinha, aren't there? So you do have to be careful.
Yeah, and here in the California, my pepper allergy has been a very fun thing to deal with. Americans really like their peppers and chili.
They do, don't they? In California as well, especially. It's pretty peppery business. California. It sounds like you found your spiritual home in Portland, then, possibly more so than in California.
I did really like Portland. Honestly, out of all the places in the US, it was the only one that I would say, okay, I actually would live here. But I
Wow.
still
Okay.
would require the healthcare part.
Right. So back to food then. Us Portuguese, we love to talk about food, and that's what you're missing. What's the first thing you're going to eat when you get back?
Probably really good seafood. Octopus. Oh, I really miss octopus.
Just the way you're talking about it, I can tell you're missing it. And you just went
in
somewhere.
soups. I really miss soups. I never imagined I would miss soup so much. The
No.
soups here in the US are so weird. There's no proper vegetable soups. There can be weird concussion like cheese and broccoli soup, and their tomato soup is basically like tomato sauce. Like, what's up with that?
This is what we need to know. This is what we need to know, because many people come to Portugal, and they and one of the conclusions you can come to in Portugal is what is it with Portuguese people and soup? Why do they have to eat soup before they eat anything else? But you're finding that a different kind of approach to soup over there. So American soups are weird. The tomato soup is tomato sauce. Do we not have cheese in our soups here? I don't suppose we do we really? They're more of a stew, aren't they? A soup in Portugal is more like a meal and a little bit of a stew, really, than a soup that you might find.
You sometimes will put like meat in some of soups, like canja de galinha, which has the pasta and the chicken broth and chicken. And there is some soups that you put actual red meat in.
Yes.
But cheese, actually, there's some soups that I like to put like goat cheese in, like alho francês. How do you say that in English?
That's leek soup.
Yes, leek soup is amazing with some goat cheese.
Now you're talking, but not very Portuguese, right?
Not particularly Portuguese, but
so the American Portuguese soup clash. That may be what you could do as part of your events. Is like,
I actually went to this Portuguese restaurant in San Francisco, in San Jose. And I asked for caldo verde because it was the only soup they had, and I was really missing soup.
Oh, bless you.
And it was completely different than the caldo verde in Portugal. It was like a thick potato base, and the couve wasn't couve, it was kale. So it was different. But it wasn't bad, so I was happy. It was still better than American soups.
There was a homeopathic resonance of Portuguese soup inside that. Was there the small lucky bit of chorizo in there as well?
Yes, it did come with actually 3 or 4 slices of chorizo, which was
okay. So because normally it's like I don't know if it's if traditionally in Portugal the father gets the one slice of chorizo in the caldo verde soup, or it's a lottery, and you know it's the lucky person who gets the one piece of meat that's in the soup there.
No, usually it depends on the size of the pan that you make, but if you make a big expanse, people will often put the whole chorizo or at least half of the chorizo.
Really? It's not chorizo soup though. It's more of it's more your cabbage soup than a chorizo soup, isn't it? To be fair,
it's still a lot more cabbage than chorizo.
Yes, okay. And Portugal, look, tea duck, American tea duck. Portugal has the best soup in the world. He's been converted. Come for the weather, stay for the soup. There you go. There's a nice little strap line for you for one of
I
you.
do find that the weather is really similar to here in California, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So there's a similarity there. Anything else that you want to tell us about culture clashes, what you're missing, first things you're going to be doing when you get back to Portugal?
I think another thing that I was really surprised by was that when you go to supermarkets, there is this whole shelves full of jumbo pill bottles of painkillers and other, you know, basic medicines. And it was just completely crazy for me to look at that and thinking like, there's people here that will be taking like 4-6 pills a day to control pain because they can afford to treat the actual problem. And it's just sad. Yeah. And it's because of that, there's whole sections of the supermarket selling jumbo bottle size pills. Yeah. And then it will be like, you will have the jumbo bottle like this, and then you will have the 4 packs, and then the 3+1 free packs, like it was candy.
It's a culture. It's a culture, isn't it? Maybe there'll be one of those bottles big enough that you can actually get inside it and live in it and just take a pill when you need it. That is, I mean, yes, joking aside, that is a pretty sad indictment, isn't it? On, I guess, dealing with symptoms rather than causes, and a culture that deals with pain in that way. Very interesting. James says, the OG, of all the cities I've been to, Portland has been the one and only, the only one I would consider living in, the only city I've ever described as beautiful. That sounds quite harsh.
So we have an agreement.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So it's Portland all the way for both of you there. That's fascinating. Pam says, yeah, it'd be great if the SNS 24 24 would be able to issue prescriptions in some cases. Why do you think, did you say it would be illegal to do so? What would be holding this back in Portuguese culture then?
Because the prescriptions can only be signed by doctors. I know in this case, supposedly the prescription were passed by a nurse, and that cannot happen in Portugal. Okay. So they would have to have actual doctors signing on the prescriptions. It would not be impossible, but it would be harder to manage in that way in order to still have an affordable service. Yeah, but I think it could probably made work, but it's definitely an interesting thing to look at, and it would be very positive if it could make work, like situations, you know, like UTIs and basic colds and stuff that is generally not life-threatening. I do feel that it's generally a lot safer to get seen by a doctor in case it's not what you are expecting. And very much one of the reasons I want to get back to Portugal is because I have endometriosis and I had surgery, and I actually didn't have an UTI since before my surgery. So I very much want to get to Portugal and do a bunch of checkups and make sure everything is okay, because I am not looking forward to do that here in the US because it has a ridiculous cost. But still, in some situations, I think this could be a very beneficial service, especially to try and take away some of the overwhelm that the public hospitals have on these minor cases, I suppose.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, lovely to be comparing the cultures. Given that we have American friends this side, and you're going over there to find out what's going on and see it as a Portuguese person. Ubi's here. Oi, and bom dia todos. When does the sandwich discussion begin? Sandwich, Ubi. Sandwich.
Sandwich.
Or sandwich even, but not sandwich. Come on, mate. And T-Duck saying Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim metro area, 20,600,000. We got over, what, 10 and a half million
double people. The population of Portugal.
Isn't it just? And the greater Los Angeles area alone has a population of over 20 million. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it? The scale, the difference. Okay, there was a little neighborhood Wi-Fi challenge there. I hadn't finished the show prematurely like I did earlier this week. I think we're okay again now. I think that good to see you, Marcus. Like in so many places, you can't get a good picture of American food by eating in restaurants. Broccoli cheese soup is a good example. It's a common restaurant soup because it's easy to freeze. Cancha de galinha soup is a soup that's commonly made at home. It's a grandma food, which is always the best kind. Good point there.
I've
However,
never seen it in anywhere, any American version of canja de galinha while I've been here, at least.
I think the point he's making is that you're more likely to have that at home than you are in a restaurant. However, I think there is a greater sort of parity between what you eat in restaurants and what Portuguese people eat at home. Although I think Portuguese people like eating.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that I think most things that, of course, they will be cooked differently at home, but most things you can find at restaurants.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, in America, the approach to cuisine and eating out is different, isn't it? You're going out to eat in America to try cuisines from all over the world. Yes. And traditionally, I think in Portugal, you're eating Portuguese food mostly when you go out, aren't you?
That's really like when you have good cooks at home, I generally actually even prefer the traditional Portuguese food eaten at family homes because it's it's just another thing. Yes. So I personally prefer to eat out different cuisines over than Portuguese. Yes. And I will mostly eat out Portuguese when I'm too lazy to cook.
Yeah. Yes. Bom fim de semana from Aviva. Good morning to you. Lovely to see you here in Madeira. One cannot truly know America without tasting a good corned beef sandwich, a Reuben or otherwise. Have you tried one of those yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's a treat to come.
But that was actually a curious event. Like 2 days ago, I went to this fancy Italian restaurant. Ooh. And I ended up ordering wagyu, the Japanese beef thing. And the thing they actually served me was a sandwich with pulled meat that was supposedly the wagyu. But why would you do that to wagyu?
Yeah, that does seem a little unfair.
And why would you do that to wagyu and put it in a supposedly Italian restaurant? It was very
confusing. Disgraceful. Okay, I should be writing to the Italian and Japanese ambassadors about this matter. Yes, you've got great fish sandwiches apparently in the Pacific Northwest. Where's that comment? Oh yeah, great fish sandwiches in the Pacific Northwest. That's been decoded by Ubi very thoughtfully for all you foreigners and English people. Ubi, I was ahead of you there on that particular occasion there. Congratulations coming in from M on your establishment of your company in the United States. And one definitely, last few comments then for you, Anna, one definitely, because I'm sure you want to get to bed, one definitely does not want to be poorly in the US without insurance. I'm sure that's true.
That's actually something I've been discussing with more than one people. It seems that here in the US, the worst crime you can commit is to be poor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is very sad.
It is sad, isn't it?
The whole homeless situation, the cost of everything, how you cannot get any sort of care. I was also last week in one of the events I was in Seattle, there was this lady telling me that her brother was diagnosed with MS, which is a degenerative disease.
Yeah.
And she had to be super on top of everything insurance-wise, because if he went over any of the premiums, he would lose the insurance, or they would be ending up paying ridiculous amounts. Mm-hmm. And if he ended up determined to be unable to work and having to go to a care facility, even though that he made a good amount of money during his life, she was saying that it was he would be able to stay there until his money goes out. Then everything will be taken, like the house will be taken, the bank accounts will be taken, everything will be taken. And only after that, he would get public care.
So the bankruptcy and then public health after that. Wow, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? What a wake up call, and how educational to hear about all of that, and how awful for that gentleman and other people in that situation. My friends from Scandinavian countries can't come to the US without medical travel insurance. Their governments won't allow it. That's interesting, isn't it?
That's actually very smart.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Newbie here having with that comment and this one, I've never had or nor seen a cheese broccoli soup. I've only heard of it. Very good. And
It's everywhere on supermarkets. When I was checking, like the supermarket soup section is the tomato soup and the broccoli cheese soup. And
yeah.
there's this other one that I don't remember, but those are the two main ones that are everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, Nubianet, it's a pleasure that awaits you, I suspect, in your own country there. If I'm going out to eat, I'm not looking for something I would make and could make at home. Yeah, that's for sure. In your final days of the trip, maybe find a proper barbecue restaurant. It is one of the few uniquely American cuisines, and it sounds like you like meat, so that might be quite a good solution. But you will be going back, of course. And PT Country Bear Marcus also saying the worst crime is to be poor. It's a sad but true statement. That part of the culture is one of the reasons we left. And cream of mushroom. Okay. Who doesn't like that first thing in the morning? I was literally one illness away from homelessness. Yeah. That is very sobering to hear that. And however, I'm sure amazing to be in the United States as well. There are so many things to commend it. I loved being there. I've been to America a couple of times. Yeah. And really enjoyed
one of the impressive things that I do have to speak positively about is the job market. The job market in the US is a lot healthier than in Portugal. I think that's one of the things that Portugal is quite bad at. There is very little market opportunity and growth opportunity professionally, while in the US, it's full of opportunity in that sense. And the salaries mostly cover the cost of life, although, of course, that depends on the industry and capacity. But I do think in that sense, it's doing better than in Portugal because often the salaries don't keep up with the cost of life.
Right. Okay. Good to hear that. And it sounds like you are having an exciting and kind of diverse range of experiences over there. This is concluding part one of the trip, and you'll be going back for part two soon. Can you tell us then what help we might give you? Because we have American friends here. What's lining up for you in part two of your American adventure?
I think I guess I could get venue suggestions for booking the actual physical events.
Yeah,
I did look at some things and I have some things in mind, but it would be great to have some venue suggestions.
Yep.
And of course, if you do have friends that are considering, we are doing these informative webinars that are completely free. And you can find them on our website. Oh, and recently we also created a Facebook group where we will be moderating to try and keep the information more or less or mostly accurate.
Good luck with that. But I guess
we'll see how that goes. But we will also test it.
Very good. Well, keep up.
I will send you the link later, and then you can share it on your forum.
I'd be delighted to
see how it goes.
Yeah, be delighted to. A breakfast burrito is also another suggestion, especially if you can stop off in Santa Fe on the way home. And you'll experience a unique world there. Maybe that's for part two. So, bon voyage. Looking forward to having you back in the country, and also looking forward to your further adventures of being in the United States. It's been amazing to keep track with you so far on this adventure. And congratulations again, Anna. We are very proud of you here. You're amazing going out there in your pioneering way and setting up shop over there in the United States. So all the best to you on your trip back and your trip back out again when the time comes.
Yeah, I really hope I don't get too jet lagged.
You'll be fine. I'm sure you'll take it all.
8 hours difference as well.
Yeah, and if you do have your breakfast burrito, bearing in mind what you said before, order without the chilies, obviously.
Yes.
You don't want to hospitalize. Given all we've said, you don't want a chili-related health crisis over there. All right, all the best to you. Bon fin de semana. Sleep well. Ciao, ciao. Sweet dreams.